be here right when you are.
Do we know if Marla's on?
I do not see her on.
Does she have the right link? Or is this
I've texted her.
if they change the link or whatever?
She was in.
Hey, did you get the updated link? Okay. Okay, bye. She's okay.
How long did she say she'd be able to stay on? 15 minutes?
15, 20 minutes, yeah. Do you guys need the agenda? John?
Oh, thank you very much.
Here's a tree. I guess we'll go get started. She can listen to the minutes, so, okay. I'd like to bring the Finance Committee meeting to order for August 26, 2024. Do the call of the meeting to order and notice of the presence of a quorum. John, Patrick, Tam, and myself are here. Do I have a motion for the minutes for July 22nd, 2024?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Patrick Tam, second by John Dart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, first item on the agenda is discussion with committee to determine if customer service should stop accepting cash payments, or if accepted, does it need to be exact cash only, and discuss on-fee charge when paying by credit card. I assume that means a service card or
Yes,
convenience
service
fee. Okay.
Yes. I'll start it, and Caitlin, if you wanna fill in on what you have found. So guest services, we really don't have that many cash exchange entities. Marla and I, and who else was in that meeting? Caitlin, were you there? Can't remember. We had discussed disbanding, just taking cash altogether. At city services, it just makes sense because of just handling cash is just another internal control issue that we ran into before. And then I know that, was it you, Patrick, that had the
Yeah.
constituent that had
What's that?
The constituent reached out to me
Yeah.
about, why are we
rights?
not taking cash?
Yeah. So we wanted to propose one of two options. We can take cash, but if we're gonna take cash, it has to be exact cash, right? That way we don't have change and things laying around here constantly and having to cash out drawers, and it's a back and forth money handling. Yeah. Or just don't accept cash at all. We haven't had any complaints, 0 complaints whatsoever here from anybody coming in, paying any of their stormwater bills or any of the permitting fees on our end. And I know Caitlin has some additional legal,
So these payments are for residents, not businesses, correct?
both,
Everything.
everything.
Residents and businesses coming in to make
Yeah.
payments.
Yeah.
And so, do you have any idea the number of transactions that were done
In the
year to
last,
date or last year? How many of them are cash? I mean, what percentage are we talking about of cash?
we haven't taken any cash for 2 months now. And I think prior to it, very little. I mean, it would be a stormwater. It would be like $14.72, right?
What was the reason you didn't take cash the last 2 months? It just happened that way, or?
We just
Started the policy.
we started a
Oh,
policy,
okay.
an internal policy. And because of that, then we found out that the city council needs to make the formal recommendation, right, Caitlin?
Well, so here's what I was forwarded, the citizen complaint that Patrick got And because all cash has some citation and basically says that this is legal tender. So what does that mean? That's very confusing, not surprisingly. So if you look at the Federal Reserve website, it does say that like private businesses can make that choice, but we are not a private business, we're a government. And then it says that United States coins and currency are legal tender for all debts, public charges, taxes, and dues. So the US money is a valid and legal offer of payment for debts. So I would probably need to get a more clear picture of what all we're accepting money for to apply that. There's not many cases, there's definitely nothing in Indiana out there that's applicable, or anywhere really to say how this would apply to a government. So, let me find the statute.
So what happens on a normal day? You have to open the cash box, do the count, and then basically close it, nobody does anything, or if there is any transactions, close the cash box at the end of the day, make sure it all balances, correct? What if no one does a cash transaction during the day? Do you still have to close it and open it?
So I reached out to Council for AIM to see what other cities are doing, and she said there's nothing out there that she knows of that says that there's no law saying cash has to be accepted, but that there are some bills at the federal level and the ACLU that are really pushing for things not to go cashless. So that's something to keep in mind, that this could be coming down the pipeline. There could be something applicable. But I think one of the reasons it was on this agenda is because there is an Indiana statute that says payments to cities can be made by any of the following that the fiscal body or the municipally owned utility board authorizes: cash, check, bank draft, blah, 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 bank card, credit card. So I have no idea, or nor have I ever heard of city councils authorizing certain things for use, but I'm sure it's just been done. So I think that's why it was brought to you guys to bring to the council, because the statute talks about the city council authorizing cash, and so it would ultimately be up to the city council whether to not authorize it as well.
Taking a credit card and charging a convenience fee is different than has somebody coming here with cash and send them to the bank to get a money order to come back. That's inconvenient.
Right. Now, there are many other cities, because we looked, that say exact cash tender only, right? There's others that say no cash, I mean, and even just around here in Hamilton County,
I was
there's,
just gonna say, what other Hamilton County city, what are the policies for other Hamilton County cities?
they're all different. Like, there's some utilities, places accept no cash whatsoever, like in many of the municipalities, it's only check or credit card only.
In some cases, they're probably just trying to deal with staff issues.
Correct.
Almost as much as, regardless of what type of payment, it's just a staff issue.
Some of it's exact cash only. They all vary differently around here. There's no standardized, and I couldn't even find really a policy that they have implemented. Like, I know in Carmel, there was 5 different ways, and every utility was different, like no cash, cash exact.
So if somebody's paying in cash, they're coming in person, which is gotta be inconvenient for anybody to do that, or is that more common than?
It might also be, even though you're not supposed to drop the cash in the 24/7 box out
Yes.
front, there have been people that have done that as well.
Mm.
Mhm.
Then what do you do?
Well, yeah.
Well, then we just put the balance, what we do is just put the balance on their stormwater, right? If say they put $15 in there and it's
Yeah.
$4 or $14.72,
Just
right?
carry it.
Mhm.
And they just carry it.
Yeah.
Marla, do you have any?
Yes, I mean, we rarely take cash for stormwater bill, but we have. Gina and Jenny at the time, they were actually like what we would call a certified cash handler. But I think the instances are few and far between. I think the cash box was minimal, obviously, because we don't want a lot of cash sitting around. But by and large, when there are multiple cash transactions, like those are happening more at Grand Park or some Westfield welcome events in the past. But we are dealing directly with those departments. So this really, the whole thing would be only applicable to community development or economic development and permitting, code enforcement and stormwater. So it's really, really limited. The residential stormwater bills, as you guys know, are not significant. But it's totally up to you, whatever you think. Now the credit cards and checks, people can create online accounts to pay for stormwater. We're just not sure how many people are aware of that option, but some people just like to pay things in person when it comes to, I guess, their stormwater bills. So you guys really just have to make a decision. We're willing to do whatever you suggest.
And another thing too is like a developer that has to pay his fees to meet a deadline, they can't get a check cut fast enough from their business. So sometimes they'll come in like $600, $800 down.
That's not very common though, is it?
It
No, we haven't,
used to be more common,
no.
but
Everybody uses their credit card now for all the C of Os and
Yeah.
permitting. I don't,
Marla, is Venmo or Zelle a safe way to transact?
No,
Okay,
absolutely not.
even if it was a city account set up?
No, I don't think the state even would allow us to do that. So we get a lot of credit cards, and some of the developers actually want to use them because they're getting a rebate and they don't mind paying that convenience fee. But stormwater's been a little different because those bills are so much less. But there was a policy in place, and it all started. One of the former city engineers, who actually works for a large home builder now, had made a request because we had a limit on the transaction maximum, which was $500. So that has now been lifted. So he told me that he once paid a permitting bill situation in Fishers for $300,000 using the company credit card, and they're going to pay that 3%. So it doesn't harm the city in any way on that side. I guess the imperative thing is we want to make sure we don't harm our residents by saying we're not going to take cash. And I tend to agree with Danielle that I like the idea of saying we'll take your cash, but it needs to be exact cash. Because with that department in a different building, I think it is always a source that you have to mention on audit for possible fraud or theft.
Yeah.
And not, it's just by circumstance. It's not because of who's there or I would never want to cast that aspersion, but I really like that idea, and I think you should maybe take that one under consideration more than maybe not taking it. I don't want to be told I can't use cash when I have it.
And
But
when I talked to AIM, we talked a little bit about, I think, just because of potential things that could happen, kind of treating it like a waiver, like we don't accept cash, we may grant a waiver and we would accept exact cash. Again, I don't think it's something that's gonna come up a lot, but then we don't necessarily say we just don't and we never will. And there's, then we may continue to get complaints and arguments about legal tender and those things.
So, just on a logistical matter, if it's just exact cash, and just to use the example, I think it was like $14 and some odd cents. Somebody walks in with 3 5s, and it gets pretty interesting in terms of the conversation because hey, there's $15, and somebody tells him or her that no, it's $14.23. Can we just apply, even if they walk up, that the additional change, if you will, to their account? I mean, that would be the way to do that.
could if they're not closing out their account.
If they're closing out their account, different conversation, but, I mean, cause one of the issues you're trying to resolve is having cash drawers, making change, those types of things. It sounds like it's a pretty low volume. At the same time, Marla, how are we treating credit cards versus debit cards? Are we making a distinction on that?
well, that's been an interesting conversation, to be honest. When I spoke with the bank the other day, what he told me, I thought, was you cannot charge a convenience fee on debit cards, only on credit cards.
That's correct.
So, well, when we looked back, we assumed that the bank can obviously identify even what's a corporate credit card versus, um, like a business credit card. Um, and then, but it doesn't make a distinguishable difference about when we would not collect on debit.
Your point of sale system, if you're on a one that you should be on, should immediately be able to identify a debit card or a credit card. Because you
Right.
cannot, because there's some restaurants, for example, the reason why I asked this question, I'm pretty knowledgeable on this. Restaurants will charge, in some cases, surcharges on credit cards. They cannot, and they will be literally hauled into court and found guilty every day if they do so on a debit card. If they do not have point of sale systems that can identify that, first off, that's their fault and they'll be found guilty again. So if we're charging fees on debit cards, cause that's effectively cash, I'd like to understand how that's being done legally
So
versus
we
a credit
don't
card.
actually charge it.
No,
You understand that then, right?
yeah, but
Okay.
at the same time, you're gonna have, I mean, if I was a resident being charged a fee on a debit card, frankly, I think you'd have more of an issue. Now, I think some of our auto pay stuff, maybe we're able to do, I don't know, that, our stuff is so convoluted. If it's a direct withdrawal from somebody's bank account or checking account, which you can do on auto pays and some other things. But if it's on a debit card, the bank is, I would really question the bank because they should not be charging any fees on a debit card based on the same legal cases on debit cards versus credit cards. I mean, to
And
me, that's like patently criminal behavior.
whatever you guys figure out today, I mean, I'm gonna double check it with them. But
I
again,
mean,
when we
Marla, if they can't distinguish a debit card or a credit card, I got a gazillion point of sale systems that there's salespeople on the streets hawking those things. And if a bank can't do that, that's crazy.
they can't. I'm not suggesting they can't. I'm merely suggesting that I may not understand what the report is. So I want to get down into the muck and mire with them on that to be sure. But these bank fees, they're just a total offset. Like when we are charged them, then we pay them. We are not making money off of people. There's no revenue source for it, even though to date we've had the departments that are receiving it into their revenue lines estimate it, which is something I also want to change down the line because it doesn't make a lot of sense. But basically, anything that we are charged because we have our own interchange fee that we have to pay that's part of that 3%, the bank charges it and then we pay it. So it's a net neutral position every single time.
Yeah, it's a serious issue. You're right. Because you have major corporate clients now that pay $1 million fee or charges on credit cards because they want that's their pay card, right? So I'm sure we have some people that run up some six-figure fees on some construction issues and things of that nature.
We haven't, but as fast as we're growing and as much as we're permitting, I think it's absolutely plausible that that's the route we'll be going. So I'd like to make sure we have some kind of process in place that makes sense well into the future because I'm not sure if to date it really has. And then with the changes that have been made, it's just in need of an update for sure.
Like, John, IU Health pays all the bills on the pay card.
Marla, is there current policy in place, internal policy regarding opening and closing the box each day? There used to be one.
So they haven't had a box, but there absolutely was a process. But we took that box back, so we've had it here.
That's great.
But yes, if you need that outlined, we can. But it's a pretty exacting process, and with the two new employees in guest services, they've been working with Mandy Trott. So all of their permissions within NAV, you know, those have to be segregated based on the duty. So I think we're in fine shape that way. It's really just, do you want them to have cash back for residents? I don't really see any of the developers necessarily wanting to come in and pay cash, but you're also talking about sometimes maybe it's you know, someone who's gotten a permit for a pool or something like that. They might want to come in. I don't know, but I have
Marla,
to
how,
scoot.
Marla, when they get the canoe rental thing out back here, how are they gonna handle that? Is that all gonna be?
That will be a kiosk.
It'll be a kiosk and it'll be through Civic Rec.
So will be credit card.
Mhm.
So
Credit or debit.
if I really wanted to be a fly in the ointment, okay, just to philosophically, cause I deal with people like this all day. If I pay with a debit card online, it's the same as cash.
Correct.
I mean, so our issue really is staff, time, having cash stores, and city services. That's really our issue. The issue, cause again, debit card is cash, so.
And Marla is right, it's also an internal control.
Correct, absolutely correct, couldn't agree more. So it's really about our internal issues, I mean, if you roll up all
Yeah.
that stuff.
I apologize. I overbooked myself today and I've got to scoot. I will find out what you guys decided, but I did want to offer because I made the offer to Danielle. It may complicate the process, but if guest services wanted to send residents who wanted to pay by cash here, we could then process their payment potentially, but we don't know what Stormwater's processes really are. So we could receipt the money in and take the credit card payment, but we don't, or cash rather, because we can't do credit cards or anything else. So it would be only cash. We could receipt it in and then make sure that Gina applies the payment. But again, I think that might be convoluting the situation or conflating it. So whatever you guys decide, I will look forward to hearing about it, and my apologies that I've got to go.
Thanks, Marla.
Thank you for your time.
Again, I mean,
We don't have to make a decision on this today, so we can just
No.
table it.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
fair.
we can take cash back. It was a conversation that both Marla and I had and both agreed upon together. It wasn't like we said we couldn't do it anymore. It became more of
Internal control.
an internal control thing. We don't ever take cash anyway, right? Like, it was more that issue.
It happens so infrequently.
Right.
So what-
Change
so what's the
that.
next?
So
what's the
after,
next-
if we table this, we discuss it at the next finance committee, would this eventually then have to go to the council?
Yes, 'cause it's a
Yes.
fiscal body.
Yeah,
So you would probably just bring an agenda item with a recommendation of an update, and then there could, again, I don't think you need to adopt some policy, I think it could just be a vote, to be honest.
okay. Fair, so it's table, great.
Item is tabled. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, the 2025 budget update and schedule.
It will be on your guys' agenda for public hearing tonight,
Second reading will be September.
September 9th.
Right.
For adoption. Marla and Ben did a great job of getting Form 3 and all up and going on our end, so it's been published, so we're good there. Oscar, do you have anything? Yeah.
No, just if there's any questions on the Form 3, I can answer them. It is customary to over-advertise to allow the city options to back into the flat tax rate strategy. So that there are several contingencies on that plan to account for, one, the levy appeal that we're hoping that we will get, and then the parks bond to, again, those are the two mechanisms in which the city will accomplish a flat tax rate and still maximizing the revenues that it gets. But any specific questions, happy to answer.
We'll also be creating a website, which I have more information coming soon, but it's westfield.in.gov/budget. So it'll be really easy for folks to get to it. There's a press release going out to the public at 4:30 this afternoon, so that will go on there. The budget presentation that Mayor Willis does at council tonight will go on there, along with just more information about the budget process and the priorities of the 2025 budget. So it'll be very transparent for folks to be able to go on there and see how we're spending their tax dollars. So, new feature this year.
Any other questions?
I think anybody have any other questions?
I do not.
John, any questions?
Yes, but I don't think, I don't think it can be answered here. I'd rather take them offline,
Okay.
if that's all right.
That's good.
I don't know how to do this next one without her here.
Yeah, next item is clerk treasurer's review of the monthly reports, revenue summary, fund and appropriations. I've looked at the July appropriation summary. It looks like most of the budgets are fairly in line. There's a couple of them that are a little bit over, but I kind of understand, like I think one of them is LRS. I want to say LHS,
Yeah.
LRS,
Yeah.
but that makes sense. Probably had a payment out of it or something by buying
I
something.
think there was another one that was brought to your guys' attention by Marla, and I haven't addressed it.
550.
550,
Yeah,
552 account.
actually, there is money in their, his general fund promotions line and not in that restrictive, fund, so we'll just have to
Allocator.
reappropriate to the right. Yeah, so there, we have enough funds, so I'm not worried about that one, that was flagged.
Cause it was like a negative 40 some odd
Yes.
thousand, I believe. It's 43 on the others.
Look for the bright red number.
Yeah.
I'm just doing this off memory.
Yeah, good job, good job. Yeah, so we'll do the reallocation on those, so it won't be a negative, and we won't have to do any we shouldn't have to do any appropriations for this year.
Yeah.
They're still getting sponsorship dollars in for events, into that restrictive fund, so.
No, the comment was even made that the revenues are up significantly as well,
Correct.
so.
Okay, any questions on the revenue summary? I looked through that, didn't see anything, and on the fund report, nothing really jumped out at me on those unless you guys saw anything. Okay, we'll skip to clerk treasurer's updates on investments, city administration comments. Any other ones? None? Hearing none. Clerk treasurer's comments? None. And any other council comments today? Hearing none, I request motion to adjourn.
Motion made. Second.
Second.
Don't ask for a second, you
There
just
you go.
gavel.
Gavel. I don't have a gavel,
You
so
don't
I
need a
gotta ask
gavel.
for it.
Use your
Nope,
fist.
I'm good.
Thanks, Oscar.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So yeah.
I don't know if it's still on YouTube.
Shut the computer down. I don't know what's on.
Pull the plug.
I could do that.
Any changes to the council agenda tonight?
No, I think because of,
It's
Pulte
not-
did reach
Okay.
out to
Did I get it?
no one, I find it hard to take it.